Okay, start soon. Okay. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Come closer. Why so far? I need binoculars to see. We will start in 3 minutes. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. I apologize, I don't have the whiteboard. I know you all appreciate my artwork very much, but I left it downstairs, and it's a community group going on, so I can't go and get it. Okay, we shall begin. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamilitamina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we're studying Bhagavad Gita. We're continuing our discussion of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Krishna has just described the path of Karma Yoga, which is a type, or as he's discussed it in chapter 2, he calls it as Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of intelligence, by which one can obtain enlightenment. So after hearing about how this path leads to enlightenment, Arjuna asked Krishna 4 questions concerning the enlightened person. Yes? You remember this for those of you who were there? The 4 questions were, number 1, you remember the first question? What is the symptom of an enlightened person? Right? Everyone has a symptom by which they are recognized. A doctor has his symptom. The police officer has his symptoms. The rich person has his symptoms. The poor person has his symptoms. So everyone has symptoms by which they are recognized. So what is the symptom of the enlightened person? That was the first question. Second question was, how does such an enlightened person speak? And speak, do you all remember what speak means? Maybe all of you weren't here. Speaks means how does an enlightened person respond to life circumstances? And how is that different from a person who is not enlightened? We know how we respond to life circumstances. When they're good, we're like, yay! So that means we're completely moved by the dualities of this world. Happiness and distress, loss and gain, victory and defeat, and so on. How is the enlightened person in these different life circumstances? And how is that different? How does he speak? That means how does he respond to life circumstances? Either he's thinking in this way, or if he's asked, what does he respond? What is his response? The third question was, how does he sit? Or the worldly objects. It's very difficult. There's like a person, for example, is a drug addict. You ever met any drug addicts before or known any drug addicts? I have experience. So the drug addict, even if you take him or her away from the drugs into some nice, beautiful atmosphere full of, scenic beauty, nice waters, they're flowing, everything. Immediately, or maybe after some time, they again run after the same drug, even though it is destroying their life. They cannot resist. So similarly, we are addicted to so many objects. It may not be drugs, but in the age of social media, we're addicted. It's a behavioral addiction that is socially acceptable to be always on your phone, always checking the like status on your Instagram or your Facebook and so on. That is an addiction. So how does an enlightened person keep themselves from running after these addictive sense objects in the world? This is the meaning is how does he sit? It is not a very easy thing to sit and keep yourself from running after the world and the various objects they provide. Yes? This was the third question. The fourth question was, how does the enlightened person walk? That means the enlightened person is also moving around in this world. So how is their movement different from those who are not enlightened? What is his... usually we are inspired to move in this world to get things, right? Why do we do karma? Karma means activity. Why do we do activity? Because we feel that we're lacking something, and so that causes us to move, right? For example, if you have some hunger in the belly, then you start moving around, right? Moving around towards what? Towards food. That is natural because you're feeling the emptiness in the belly. And then sometimes you are bored. You're feeling some emptiness in the mind, dullness. So you want to fill it up. You run towards, some movies, or you decide to binge watch some series on Netflix. A series, that would be really, okay, maybe not a series, a season, and you do that for 2-3 days. You just go season 1, day 1, season 2, day 2, day 3, season 3, and you spend the whole day doing that because there's some emptiness in the mind, so you're trying to fill it up. So everyone is in the material world, general souls, they're inspired to move because there's some emptinesses there. That is what we call as the karma. So this enlightened person, he is also moving. So how is his movement different from these people? That is the fourth question. So 4 questions. Symptom, how does he speak? How does he sit? How does he walk? Yes? We discussed this last class. I'm just giving a recap. So we discussed the first 2 questions. What is the symptom? You remember the symptom of the enlightened person? Prajahati yada kaman. I forget the rest. Manogatan. He's giving up all desires that are manufactured in the mind. And he's completely satisfied in the self. This is the symptom. This is actually an internal symptom, so you may not be able to see this one so much, but you can know it for yourself. Just like sometimes people ask, how do I know I'm enlightened? How do you know you're finished eating? Does anyone have to tell you? You know automatically by direct perception, isn't it? So how do you know you're enlightened? Atmaneva atmana tushta. You feel self-satisfied. Huh? Anyone here enlightened? Immediately you can understand. Isn't it? Does anyone have to tell you if you're enlightened or not? By this definition. That you feel completely self-satisfied. I don't need anything. Just drink water and be happy. I don't even need water. Oh, the Atmarama, this word is used, Atmarama means self-satisfied, one who is finding pleasure in their own self. You have to come to discover the self to find pleasure in the self. Most people have self-esteem problems. This is a big issue that comes up now. Why do they have self? Because they are focused on the non-self that is naturally going to cause self-esteem problems. This body and mind is the non-self, and if we're preoccupied with the body and mind, naturally you'll have self-esteem issues. I'm thinking some mean things, so I'm not going to say them, but we identify with the body and mind, and the body and mind is inherently disappointing. Inherently disappointing. Sometimes we have problems with the way that we look. Mentally, we have all sorts of issues. The mind is just crazy. Someone were like, if it was possible to like open up the mind and see what was going on inside, we would all be thoroughly embarrassed. I suppose the doctor can just check your mind. You go, it'd be horrible, a horrible place. So if you identify with the body and mind, is inherently disappointing. But if you identify with yourself, the self is inherently wonderful and blissful. So the self-realized person is deriving pleasure from his own self, which is vastly superior to the body and mind. This is a symptom. As such, how does he speak? When met with the dualities of the world, we heard that when there's some suffering condition, he is not disturbed internally. And when there's some nice position and something wonderful is happening, he is also not elated. Just like, for example, if I say, you are very beautiful, you're one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen, what will you do? You will smile. First, it'd be hard to resist it. If someone was really saying that to you and like really mean and like, you're just an amazing person and you're so wonderful. Thank you. Or they give you some nice money, then you'll be elated. Or someone comes up to you and criticizes you. Then you don't have to criticize, just give a feedback. I always say it doesn't have to be so heavy, it just has to be a feedback. And then you become disturbed. So in these dualities of life, he is not disturbed, either in mind or if he's asked by someone, there's no disturbance. He says, this is just a result of my karma. We heard this already. And he's given up attachment, fear, and anger. These are the things that cause us to become too emotionally invested with the world and get disturbed. So he's given all that up. So this is how he speaks. These questions we covered on Wednesday last week. So you can check out the video or to get a more detailed discussion. Now we want to look at these last two questions. How does the self-realized person sit? And how does the self-realized person walk? We want to look at these questions today. So let's look at these verses. This is from verse 58. I would have put it on the whiteboard, which I don't have today. But from verse 58 to verse 63, Krishna's kindly elaborated on the topic of how does the self-realized person or the enlightened person sit. And what does sit mean again? What is the meaning of sit in this question? What is the meaning? Yeah.
Not pursue.
Yes, thank you. Very good. I will ask questions like this just to make sure there's consciousness in the room. Because people tend to lose consciousness with their eyes open during the class. It's a quite a common phenomenon that happens. So just to keep you alert. So let's look at the answer to this question. Krishna says, this is text 58 starting. Text 58 to 63 again is the answer to this question. Yada samharate chayam kurma aghaniva sarvashaha indriya nindriyarte bhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. This is the translation. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects. Indriyani, indriyarte bhyas. Indriyani means the senses. So senses, you can say 5 in number. Sense of seeing, sense of hearing, sense of smelling, sense of tasting, and then the tactile sense. And they're always looking for their objects. The eye looks for form, the ear looks for sound, the nose looks for smell, the tongue looks for taste, and the tactile sense looks for? Touch. Yeah, there, touch. Nice things to touch. So Indriya Artebhyas. Indriya Artebhya means the sense objects. So when one is able to withdraw the senses from their sense objects, as a tortoise withdraws its limbs within the shell, then such a person is said to be enlightened. It doesn't seem like a very amazing description, and therefore this description continues on in several verses. But if you really think about it, this is actually true. I love the first sentence of Prabhupada's commentary here. He says, a test of a yogi. How many of you here call yourselves yogi, bhakti yogi, or some other type of yogi, or you think, yeah, yogi? So the test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul, there's so many people who say that they're enlightened. So here's a test, is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. I love that sentence, because how many times have we been, overtaken by the senses? We're not able to control the senses. Just for example, same example, if you binge watch a season of some show on Netflix, that wasn't really according to your plan. And oftentimes it happens when this happens. It's not like you've planned it out. Sometimes it happens like, okay, I'm just gonna watch one more episode, and then and then I'm gonna, go do something productive, But then the episode ends with a cliffhanger. It's like, wait, this is too good. I gotta see what happens next. Then you watch another episode, and then before you know it, it's 11 o'clock p.m. You've done nothing productive. Maybe you've managed to go to the kitchen and get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Anyone have this experience? This has happened to me before. It's embarrassing, but this happens. It wasn't according to your plan, but you were overtaken by the senses. This happens sometimes. Or sometimes another, maybe more not so intensive an example, you open the computer, especially in the age of social media and distraction, you open the computer to do some work, and then ding, oh, what's this? I can't believe she did that. Then there's a connecting link on there. Okay, what's going on? Oh, man, I got to comment on this. It wasn't even on your radar, and all of a sudden you're being brought into this whole other reality that wasn't according to your plan because of the senses. And then when you try to withdraw from it, you can't. Become completely overtaken by it, isn't it? Just like sometimes these Facebook wars happen, like a real heated conversation, and you made a nice comment. You probably took you half an hour to 45 minutes to write the comment, and you edited it a few times, and you reread it, man, this is such a good comment. Let me just tweak this word real quick, that one, and then you finally post it. And then someone says something completely cruel, this is the most idiotic thing I've ever read. What? And for the next hour and a half, you're fighting with someone on Facebook, for example. Now, if you were able to look at the situation objectively, it's completely ridiculous. It's just total, but you become under the control of the sense object, or the senses, and in one sense, the senses and the sense objects are they're working together almost and pulling the self away from itself. So the first test of a yogi is that they're able to control their senses according to their plan. They're able to withdraw their senses from the objects whenever they decide to do so. That actually is a pretty extraordinary quality. If you really think about it on a deep level, and we just think about our life and our inability to actually do that, especially in the age of distractions, which makes it even doubly difficult. This is a very enlightened. This is a symptom of someone who's able to sit, enlightened person. This is how he sits. He's able to withdraw his senses from their objects. So Krishna wants to comment on this a little bit further. How is this possible? So that's text 59. Text 59 is a very famous and popular text. Someone may argue, anyway, if someone gets sick, they are also able to withdraw their senses from their objects. So how is that the extraordinary quality of an enlightened person? Right? When you get sick, you withdraw your senses from the object sometimes, right? You just sleep all day. Right? Isn't it? When you get sick, you can control yourself when you're sick. Don't eat this because you'll die. Then you're also controlled. So how is this the extraordinary quality of an enlightened person? So Krishna elaborates on that in this verse, very famous verse. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drispa navartate. So Krishna says here, Vishyavani vartante niraharasa dehina. So the embodied person, Vishyavani vartante, he may refrain from the sense object. He's also not connecting with the sense object. Nir aharasya, he's fasting. Ahara means to eat, so nirahara means to fast. So he's kind of abstaining from this enjoyment of the sense objects. As I mentioned before, the eye, you can say eats form, right? That is the sense object for the eye. The ear eats sound. The nose eats smell. So nirharasya, kind of like fasting from these sense objects. He may be practicing that, but rasa varjam, but inside the desire for connection with those objects remains. Rasa varjam here means the asat trishna, means like the thirst for the object, right? Sometimes you, for example, they have this thing, what is it called? The vipassana meditation. So you may practice vipassana meditation. You have to keep quiet all day and you meditate. So you're also not connecting with the sense objects for the day or for the 10 days. But as soon as the 10 days get over, immediately you run to whatever it is, the alcohol and so on. Why? Because you were meditating on those things inside. So externally, you may have been able to resist, but internally, your heart was fully invested in those objects. Just like sometimes I've seen this when people have like really weird breakups and they're like, I'm not going to talk to them anymore. I'm just going to keep them out of my life. And of course, they're thinking about such a person like intensely. And then again, they go and meet. Again, they message, how are you 2 days later? I thought you weren't going to talk to them anymore. But, I'm feeling compassion or whatever. They give some justification. So you may resist the object, but inside you're thinking about it intensely. But the enlightened person, raso apyasya parandrishta vartate, by experience of a higher taste, this is how parandrishta, Prabhupada translates parandrishta as a higher taste. The word drishta also means like to see, like by seeing the param. The param here means the transcendence. In context, it really means seeing the soul. You're actually experiencing the soul. And it could also extend further, you're seeing God. But by seeing the reality, the truth, the param, the transcendence, that desire inside is itself also destroyed. So if you resist an object, but the desire inside remains, then it's only a matter of time before, again, you have connection with that object. Isn't it? I can't think, what's a good example? Maybe you can think of your own life. An example where you're not going towards the object, but you're thinking about it all the time. And then eventually, again, you go back to it. Someone can give an example? Chocolate. I'm not going to eat this chocolate anymore. Never again. But inside, and chanting Hare Krishna like that. Hare Krishna. Yeah, what are you thinking about? Chocolate. Then again, you get up and eat the chocolate. I remember that happening to me. We used to have these burfi sweets in the monastery in Chicago. They were amazing, but they had so much sugar in it. That's why they were amazing. It was like really like an addiction. So at some point, you got concerned that your teeth might fall out, like rot and fall out, because there was just so much sugar. And we would eat like 5, 6, 7 of them in a stretch. It was just so addictive. Finally, you would say, I'll not eat this burfi sweet. It's not good for me. And Hare Krishna chanting and thinking, but I could really go for a burfi right now. And then again, you go and eat the burfi. Again, you have addiction problem. It happened many times in ashram. So one may resist, but inside the desire is there. But for one who is seeing the param, who is experiencing their actual self or experiencing God, in the case of a bhakti yogi, then for them that desire is self-destroyed. So that is the difference between an enlightened person who is pulling his senses back from the objects and the unenlightened person who may also be able to do that circumstantially. What is the difference? The difference is what's happening inside. Inside, the person who is not enlightened may be externally resisting, but internally meditating on the object. The enlightened person is externally resisting, and inside there's also no desire for the object because he's experiencing something much greater. He's experiencing his own self in this context, or God, we'll hear later on in the Gita. So in other words, this is how he's able to actually withdraw his senses from the objects because he's experiencing something better. Just like you can see this with kids. You take them to a toy store. At first, they're attracted to, maybe bicycle. But then they see the Xbox and they forget about the bicycle and they go to the Xbox. And they see maybe ice cream and they forget about the Xbox temporarily and they go for the ice cream. Whenever they perceive something higher, they naturally forget this other not as nice attraction. So that is the difference between the enlightened and the unenlightened. So in text 60, Krishna wants to speak about the rarity of this kind of higher taste. This is verse 60, very nice verse also. Yatato hyapi konteya purusha shavipashtita indriyani pramatini haranti prasabhamana. So he says the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So yatato hyapi konteya, even though one is practicing restraint, this is before the stage of full enlightenment. Purushasha vipashita. Vipashita translated here as a person who's discriminating, a person who has proper knowledge, they've received proper knowledge from a guru, they have discernment, and they're practicing some sadhana, some spiritual practice and restraining. For such a person, indriyani pramatini, the senses are agitating. And they agitate. We hear experience regular agitation, isn't it? Senses agitating. Haranti prasabha, and eventually these senses carry away the mind of such a person. Even a person of discrimination who's endeavoring. So we're all like practicing yogis. We're endeavoring to, do the right thing and be spiritual. But the senses agitate and they can pull the mind. Just like, I don't want to give this example, but this is the first example that comes to my mind. Just like anyway, I'll give this example. It's slightly inappropriate, but it just helps give a clarity about the situation in the material world. Sometimes you see, let's say the object of attraction, let's say the object of sexual attraction. You may be married also, you may be in some relationship. And you see some object that is very nice, and you kind of like see it and then you don't want to look at it. You don't want to look again because I'm in a relationship, I'm committed. But the eyes are just like, and then finally you like really, don't do it. I've seen this so many times actually. You have this experience like now you go to the gym. I go to the gym now. It's a recent development in my life. And sometimes in the gym, if some sense object is there, you don't want to look, And everyone is there, it could be a little distracting sometimes. It's depending on the time you go also. So you don't want to, or someone is like running and they may be doing all things with their hair or anything. You can get easily bewildered. Now you're a yogi. It's like, no, I'm going to be spiritual. I'm going to do this in a spiritual way. But the senses are so agitating. And the senses like, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? It's like, yeah, let's look again. No, look again. No, look again. Like, no, stop it. Stop it. Ah! Yes, so this is for a person of discrimination. They've learned proper knowledge, they still struggle. And you see in the churches and temples and mosques and so on that so many of the spiritual leaders, they're people of knowledge and discrimination, and still they have so much difficulty. So in making this statement, Krishna is speaking of how difficult it is to actually have that param drishta. You may have the knowledge, but without yet having the actual experience, drishta, of the transcendence. And therefore your senses are still able to pull you, or the sense object is still able to pull the senses and the mind towards the world, and you can't sit, even though you want to sit, as per the question. So how do you get out of this sort of, the commentators said there's sort of like a mutual dependence. On the one hand, they call it the fault of mutual dependence. On the one hand, you need a higher taste to control the senses, but you need to control the senses to develop a higher taste through proper. So they call this the fault of mutual dependence. So how do you get out of this sort of what we will call a catch-22 in the West. So that is answered in verse 61. Also very nice verse. This is the first verse, keeping this in mind, this is the first verse where Krishna mentions himself and he mentions himself in terms of actually perfecting your practice. Tani sarvani sangyamya yukta asita matpara vashehi yasindriyani tashtra pragya pratishtita. So this is a translation here. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So, Tani Sarvani Samyanya. First, it begins with controlling your senses. First, you gotta get those bad boys under control. So you get proper knowledge from a teacher. So you become a person of discernment. And then you begin the path of spiritual practice. You control your senses. But that knowledge will not be sufficient enough to stop that tendency for the senses to pull the mind towards the world. So you're going to need something stronger than just your knowledge and discernment. What do you need that is stronger than just your knowledge and discernment? Yeah, you need God. So then yukta asita matpara. So he can remain situated, yukta asita, engage in this sense control, matpara, by thinking of Krishna, by thinking of me. Vashehi yasindriyani, and therefore one who is able to fully control his senses, he is said to be a person of steady intelligence. So the idea here, and we don't have, the idea here, if you see the commentary also of our Prabhupada and other commentators, the idea is that the faults in the mind can be removed by meditating on Vishnu, by meditating on Krishna. In other words, Vishnu is like a fire that burns up faults in the mind. That is the particular comment that Prabhupada makes later on in his commentary. So the mind is having so many faults that need to be burned to smithereens, so that otherwise they will cause problem in the future. Mahaprabhu has used this language, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, that purify the window or the mirror of the mind from the dust of lust and greed and so on. The different languages there. But basically, these faults are there in the mind. They need to be purified. And our knowledge is not enough to purify them. You need something higher than just knowledge. You need grace of the Supreme Person of Krishna. So it's interesting that this is the first place where Krishna talks about himself in the Gita. And he speaks about himself in terms of kind of perfecting your sadhana. You need to think of him to keep your senses under control so you can move steadily towards the path of enlightenment. In other words, if you're going to reach there, you're not going to reach there by yourself. With your discriminating knowledge, you'll need the assistance of the Supreme Person to actually reach that final goal of enlightenment. So someone may say, well, I don't want to think of Vishnu. Not someone, most of the living souls say like this. If you tell them think of Krishna, they say, why Krishna? Why not my girlfriend? Why not my boyfriend? Why not like this? My dog. Or you say, Chant Hare Krishna, why not Coca-Cola? One time Prabhupada was asked like this, why not Coca-Cola? Why Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna? Why not Coca-Cola? So Prabhupada got a very nice response. He said, chant Coca-Cola, and when you get tired, chant Hare Krishna. That's a brilliant answer. Because there's nothing in that Coca-Cola, So go on speculating, chant Coca-Cola. When you're tired, then chant Hare Krishna. A very brilliant answer. So many people may say, why I have to think of Vishnu? So Krishna gives very nice answer in verse 62, 63. These are very famous verses, and we'll have to stop with these two verses. So someone may say, I don't want to think of Vishnu. So Krishna, all right, so this will be the consequence. Dayato vishayam punsam sangasteshu upajayate. Sangat sanjayate kama krodo abhijayate. So this is your destiny if you don't want to think of Vishnu. He says, Dayato vishayam punsam. This means while contemplating the objects of the senses. So the idea here is that Dayato means to meditate. If you don't meditate on Vishnu, you're going to be meditating on something. And sometimes that something may be deemed more congenial, and sometimes that something is not congenial at all. You ever have the experience of meditating on something not congenial right at the time for meditation? Sometimes I feel like my mind is peaceful until I start meditation. Like I'm like, okay. And as soon as I put my hand on my beat back, then immediately some horror comes into mind, something absolutely horrible. Not all the time, but I've had experiences where it's just like, I'm getting ready, like, and then some horrible image comes into mind. And sometimes it carries away your meditation. You start really thinking about that, and it can become problematic. So if you don't want to think of Vishnu, Dayato Vishnayam Pumsan, you'll meditate on something. The idea here is that we all have these impressions in our mind. From all of our life experiences are stored inside the mind as impressions, imprints. They're called the samskaras. And they get activated sometimes suddenly due to fructification of karmas. So certain impressions just suddenly get activated. And sometimes when walking in the material atmosphere, when you see something, they trigger certain impressions in your mind. And so if you're not thinking of Vishnu, then these samskaras start to surface on your mind. And these samskaras cause you to think of these sense objects. You start to meditate on them. Dhyato Vishya. Vishya means the sense objects. So you start thinking of your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You start thinking of chocolate or cheesecake. You start thinking of season 8 of Game of Thrones. It's coming out soon. Can't wait. Yeah, anything. The mind can think of anything random and crazy also. Because these impressions are there, they get triggered. So if you don't think of Vishnu, Dhyato Vishayam, then you will think of the sense objects. And what happens from there? Sangas Tishu Bajayate, you develop Sangha for the sense. Sangha means you get attached to them. Whatever you keep thinking about all the time, you will become attached. Sangat Sanjayate, come on. From that attachment comes increased attachment, which is called kama or lust or thirst. A thirst to have the object, right? There's actually a very nice picture of this in the old school Bhagavad Gita depicting these two verses. And of course, they give the classic image of a man getting attached to a woman and, going down. So he starts meditating, and then he gets attached. Yeah, this could be my wife even. You may not know this if you're married already, but I've heard many young men report this to me. That we have one of our centers in Vrindavan, very nice centers there, Vrindavan. And so many young boys are on our kirtan party, our chanting party there. And people from all over the world, they come and dance and sing in our kirtan. So many times the boys have reported this to me, that when they're not married, that every girl they see, they think is potential wife. Every girl. It goes on probably on the train also. You're on the train, you think, yeah, I can marry her. You don't even know her name or anything. You just see, yeah, I can marry her. The next person comes, okay. And you like start even sometimes playing out the attraction in your mind. Yeah, I marry, we'll go on walks together. We'll study Bhagavad Gita together. It'd be beautiful. We'll worship the deity together. You play out all these scenarios in your mind. It'd be wonderful. So then from that attachment, the attachment becomes very strong. And then there's a thirst to have the object. This is called as kama. And from that kama, when it is frustrated, then there is krodha. Krodha means anger. So when lust, desire is frustrated, you become angry. So then what happens after that? Next verse, and this is the last verse we'll cover. From anger, krodha bhavati samoha. You become bewildered. Samoha means bewildered. Samoha means you don't know what is right and what is wrong in a state of bewilderment. Just like sometimes in these, what do you call them? Like passion crimes, I guess. And so they become so angry that samoha, they become bewildered. And they lose any sense of right and wrong. They just can kill their partner or something crazy like that. This is called samoha. Samoha shmriti vibrama. From samoha, bewilderment, one loses memory. Shmriti vibrama. And one commentary says shmriti vibrama means you forget that you were trying to be spiritual, or that you were trying to control the senses and make advancement. Right, when you're bewildered. Just like sometimes when you get upset with the Prabhuji who's done something to you, then you start like cursing. You forget all about your spiritual life, and this is displeasing to the spiritual master. All that just goes out the window. Like, now I'm gonna tell them off, and then later on it comes. So you lose your memory that you're trying to control the senses and make advancement. And from the loss of memory, Shrinti Brahmsha, Buddhi Nasho, your Buddhi is destroyed. Right? Remember, Krishna's called this whole path as Buddhi Yoga to kind of underscore the importance of Buddhi on the path of making progress. So if the Buddhi is Nasha, if it's destroyed, then there's no more Buddhi Yoga. And therefore he said, Buddhi Nasha, from the destruction of Buddhi, Pranashati, one perishes. Perishes here or falls down means, Prabhupada puts, one falls down and get into the material pool. That means they again indulge in sense objects. They become lost in the waters of sensual indulgence. So someone may say, well, why Krishna? Why I don't want to meditate on Vishnu? I want to meditate on my girlfriend or something like that. So it's okay. Just check out 262, 263 Bhagavad Gita. Your destiny is there. Your future is written there nicely in these two verses. So then that concludes Krishna's discussion of how does the enlightened person sit. So in summary, he is able to withdraw his senses from the objects, which is actually an extraordinary quality. And the reason he's able to do so, and which distinguishes him from those who aren't able to do that effectively, is that he's extinguished all desire internally by experiencing something higher. Krishna speaks of the rarity of this actual experience of something higher, even for the learned person. And if it's possible, he says that they have to practice by thinking of me. And if one does not want to think of Vishnu, then there's consequences. Not that Krishna himself is punishing, but this is just how the cookie crumbles. If you don't want to think of Vishnu, then you'll think of sense objects, and then your destiny is set. I always think of it, the last point here. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a water park before, but once you get inside the tube, and you just got to ride it out until you hit the pool. While you're up, you still can stop it, but you're like halfway in, you can say like, nah, this is too much, I'm coming out. But once you let go, you have to ride it out until you hit the pool, right? So just as an interesting comment, this comment is actually made by Ramanujacharya about karma. He says this whole process actually starts with meditation. So you kind of want to nip it there. Like, don't meditate on the sense object or redirect the mind towards Vishnu. If you're getting a little attached, that's like being in the thing where you're still holding on to the rails. But he said once karma comes up, he says after that, it's very hard to reverse the process once karma is taken over. So one has to really, take control of their mental culture and think of Vishnu. That is the encouragement here. And then enlightenment is assured by slow degrees. So that's how does he sit. Are there any questions about this? Anyone wants to ask any question? Any clarification?
When you say meditate on Vishnu, you mean the 7 parts of devotion, right?
When we say meditate on Vishnu, what do we mean? We mean think of Krishna. Okay. So meditate can mean chanting Hare Krishna. Okay. You meditate on the deity. I think in yoga culture, at least we see this in Yoga Sutras, it means meditating on the mantra. Omkar, they would chant the pranava mantra Om, or we chant Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So meditation on Vishnu means chant the mantra. It can also include worship of the deity, or just looking at the deity, thinking of the deity stories. That's a more devotional orientation. But it generally means meditating on the mantra.
Why does it say Vishnu, not Krishna?
Different there. That's okay. Vishnu, actually, Krishna just says Matpara, me. So he's speaking, so it's Krishna. But Prabhupada says in the purport, one should meditate on Vishnu, the same personality. One should think of the supreme person, the deity.
But it's not like the devotees that meditate on Vishnu, they are not kind of going to Krishna loka.
No. Yeah, that is another topic. What deity you meditate on, you go to the planet of that particular deity. That is another subject matter. But the idea is that you should meditate on God. Vishnu, Nrsimhadev is there, Varahadev, Kurma, Narayan, Krishna. The idea of meditating on Bhagavan. And usually, again, that was accomplished by meditating on the mantra. So they would chant Pranava mantra, Omkar. We chant Hare Krishna mantra like this. That is the meaning there. Someone is asking online, how do you decide which name to use? Hare Krishna is very lovely. When you use Vishnu versus Krishna, a very similar question as yours, I suppose. So usually you have a spiritual teacher, they give you the mantra. So you meditate on the mantra that is given. Right? So we are given Hare Krishna mantra, so we meditate Hare Krishna. If the Guru gives some other mantra, you can chant that mantra also. Oh, this is Ian. Okay, cool. What's up, Ian? Any other question? Wilfred, you want to say?
What was the translation for Samahat?
Samohat means bewilderment. One other question from online. So you mean to say that when the sense objects enter into our mind, we are gone? Not yet, but we're moving in that direction. Unless it is out of mind, we are safe. But as soon as it enters into the mind, game is over. All capital letters. It's not exactly that dramatic. As soon as the sense object enters, boom, knockout. It's not exactly that dramatic. But Krishna is saying, if you contemplate, then you will become attached. Then from attachment, you will become, as we say in the modern vernacular, thirsty. It's interesting that word is also used so many places, actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, also Trishna, thirst. So if you kama, and which means lust, or it means desire, is translated as lust often. Kama and Trishna are very much related. They both Rajaguna Samubhava. They're both generated from passion. In the presentation of the Gita. So if you keep thinking about something, you become thirsty for it. And then when you're thirsty, you need to quench that thirst, isn't it? So how do you quench thirst? You have to get the water, right? So then you will go after the water of that object to quench your thirst. So once you become thirsty for an object, practically your mind will not be peaceful until you've actually drank in that whole object. It sounds a little bit disgusting when you think of it like that, but that's exactly what it is. Like, I could just drink you. That would be a horrible pickup line. But, you walk up to someone at the bar or something, he's like, I could just drink you up. Like, what? That's exactly what's going on, though. You become thirsty, and then the mind will not be satisfied until you drink that object, fully exploit it, fully enjoy it. So it doesn't have to be game over when thinking of the sense object, but you have to redirect it towards something higher. And Krishna's recommending toward himself. Think of him. And if you don't think of him, then your meditation will keep going towards the object, and then you go down like this. All right. Any final thoughts? Some other questions coming online. SB's definition of yogi: one should be able to control senses according to one's plan. This can be justification for sense enjoyment as well. Yogis can say this is what I wanted to do, actually. So the materialistic person said, I'm controlling my senses according to my plan. I wanted to go to the bar. I went to the bar. I wanted to drink, so I drank. Yes, we agree. The question is, can you not do that? That is our question. And that is Krishna's point, that you're able to actually withdraw the sense from the object. Indulging in sense is easy. Anyone can do that. That's very easy. It's when you have to stop indulging it. That's when the hard part comes. Just like so many people have this sex addiction, or any addiction for that matter, drug addiction, sex addiction, media addiction. That's a more common one for many of us, I would suspect, today. So indulging is easy. Checking the Facebook likes or Instagram, that's easy. But to stop it, now, because people can't do it on their own, they have all these apps now to control it. Because you can't control it also. As soon as you hear that notification ding, it's like doing japa time. I see so many devotees bringing their phones. It's not very good, practice, actually. We keep our phones near to us, and then we get the zzz. This is literally us resisting. That's literally us resisting. It was so weak. Oh, so the point is not about indulging. The point is not indulging. So anyone can say, yeah, I'm controlling according to my plan. That is only true until you have to stop it. Then you will see you're not so much in control. Just like one time we were talking about brahmacharya in one of my other classes, celibacy. And so someone said, what is the difficulty in not indulging in sex life or these sorts of things? So the Kartik month was just upon us that time. So I said, how about you practice celibacy for the month? And they come back to me. I said, after 1 week, you'd be crying. Then you have to then you realize how difficult it is to actually withdraw oneself from these objects is very powerful. Yes.
I was just saying it's interesting how timeless that is, because you keep saying like in these days of social media, it's pretty obvious how.
Yes, but even
it's
before.
shocking, but even
Yes.
this has been wrong for a long time.
Yeah.
So even back then.
The sense objects are always there, right? Sound is always available. Smell, touch is always available. The sense objects are always there. So that's what Krishna is talking about. And they just take on many colorful forms today, but it's the same sense objects: sound, smell, etc. So yes, this is what makes Bhagavad Gita so amazing. It's just very fundamental, and you can give a modern critique of anything, but the principle is very fundamental, timeless, as you said. So yes, good luck. Okay, so we're gonna stop there for today. I do have the questionnaire, but it's 7:47, and you can look at the questionnaire on Wednesday when we finish the last question of Arjuna. How does the self-realized person walk? I hope the subject matter was clear for you the best I could to clarify. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Namaste. Hare Krishna. Okay. Later online.